comic fans, how's it going? It's Mike from the Hardcover Comic here. Hope you're all doing well, staying safe and sound. Today I wanted to talk some more Hellboy. Probably 2 months, 3 months ago maybe, I did a rereading Hellboy Part 1 where I talked about the first two library edition volumes. I basically, throughout the year I reread parts of my collection. A lot of the books that I have here are books that I've reread multiple times already. I love them, and Hellboy is definitely no exception to that. So I've recently reread volumes 3 and 4. I recently over the past couple months, and I wanted to talk about them a little bit. We're going to look at the library editions from the top down, all that nice fancy stuff, and look at the gorgeous artwork by Mike Mignola, Richard Corbin, and others. As we talk about the story, why these might be the best volumes in the set, who knows? I mean, they're amazing. Either way, before we get into that, I gotta tell you guys about organicpricebooks.com. If you don't know, they're the sponsor of our show. They're an incredible resource for buying yourself or gifts for others. Buying yourself new hardcover comics, new trade paperbacks, whatever it may be. Dark Horse, Image, DC, Marvel. Organicpricebooks.com has it all. You can pre-order on there. You can get your omnis on there. Stuff may be on back order, but you can, that's fine. It lets you know that. It's really great. Shipping's very quick. It's really well packaged as well. Your books will arrive safe and sound, not like that Amazon stuff where half of it's hanging out of the corner of the box because the guys decided to play frolf with it. Frisbee golf, that's a thing, right? I sort of came up with it on the spot, but I know it's a thing. Either way, use the code THC2 to get you $2 off all your orders moving from now on, to every single order. $2 off. That's what you get using the code THC2. There's also a link down in the description below that will take you to their website. You can do whatever you got to do, and at checkout, the promo code will be applied automatically for you. Otherwise, just use THC2. Now, let's talk some Hellboy. Library editions 3 and 4. It's getting tough because it seems like the Hellboy library editions just get better and better as I keep reading them. Library edition volume 3 collects Conqueror Worm and a bunch of stories that are collected to be called Strange Places, which they are. So Conqueror Worm is a 4-issue mini-series. Really excellent story. And then Strange Places sort of follows what happens after that. Mainly Mike Mignola artwork here. Really amazing stuff. This is sort of the turning point where where other artists start jumping in and taking a turn at the Hellboy universe. Conqueror Worm is amazing. I had totally forgotten what happens in this story when I started reading it. Of course, on the cover of the book, you get to see a character named Lobster Johnson, and I was very pleasantly reminded that Lobster Johnson shows up in this storyline. It's again a continuation of what's awesome about Hellboy, getting some history, seeing how Mike Mignola takes real life history and ties it into the mythology of the Mignola-verse. With absolute crazy stuff happening. The Conqueror Worm is an actual thing. You see characters, terrible Nazi characters from previous volumes show up here again. You also do get sort of a breakdown of the secret history of the Mignola-verse and what happened with, Anungun Rama and all these and the original demons that were created, the elder gods, and how they were cast out and how they were hidden away, and how the right hand of Hellboy's being is basically all this stuff, all this really cool crazy stuff about the elder god aspects of the Mignola-verse. And then Strange Places follows what happens with Hellboy after that. Without spoiling too much, Hellboy makes a pretty big decision at the end of the Conqueror Worm storyline, and takes his journey to Africa. Crazy stuff happens. He encounters this being called the Bog Rouge that keeps him underwater for a little bit. I don't want to spoil too much. I can't recommend this enough. It was such a blast to reread this, and it's again such a cool change of pace to go from Conqueror Worm, a 4-issue mini, 4 issues entirely dedicated towards a story, and then the Strange Places thing that sort of takes Hellboy as a character into the abyss, as he sort of deals with who he is and what he is, and his sort of destiny to be the destroyer of worlds. Really powerful stuff. Absolutely beautiful artwork by Mike Mignola throughout. And it did a great job of setting the stage for the epicness that will be, the subsequent volumes of Hellboy. Having read it once already, it's multiple, having read Hellboy a few times already, it's really nice to reread this and sort of see how it all built up again and sort of reevaluate it, knowing what happens in future, iterations of Hellboy. Some awesome background material here, sketchbook stuff. You get a really cool breakdown of how Mike Mignola comes up with all the various ideas for the stories. Looking at Volume 4, you get some more artists here. Primarily Richard Corbin gets mentioned. I think there are a couple other artists in here. Craig P. Russell does definitely do an issue. And I believe there are a couple other artists whose names I'm not remembering now. But regardless, you get a bunch of Richard Corbin in here. If you're a fan of Richard Corbin, this will be a good thing for you. I personally like what he did for this Hellboy story, for these Hellboy stories. Mostly because, there aren't too many. It's Hellboy. It can be a little exaggerated. It can... the Richard Corbin style works for it. And what's really cool about this first story that you get in here, it's called The Crooked Man, is it's different. It's different. It's a fairly lengthy one-shot, and it's actually a little American supernatural history and storyline. It's really interesting. I read the little snippet at the end that Mike Mignola wrote. This is actually a thing, I guess, in certain parts of American mythology, this Crooked Man character. But either way, this volume is not as incredible as the third one. I really, really love the third one, the epicness of it, the way it was setting the stage for the craziness that's going to happen with Hellboy. The books do continue to be very disturbing and horrific and filled with supernatural goodness. The shading, the colors, all of it. The actual binding itself is fantastic on all these books. I've had the library editions for years at this point, and they're still holding very well. I get a little worried whenever I open them too much, just because I don't want to wear them whenever I read them. You can see some P. Craig Russell artwork coming up here. Really, really beautiful stuff. This volume is one of those volumes. It seems like the odd number volumes have more of a structure to them. These even number ones kind of have some shorter stories, some longer stories in there, a lot more variety with the artists as well. The stories are fun, even though they're these one-shots, they're fun. They do fill in some blanks as you get to see little bits and pieces of the Mignola-verse get sort of filled in, little bits and pieces of Hellboy's history and various other characters within the Hellboy universe. You see their histories come together, and it's really funny to see. It's oddly funny to see recurring villains come back, where you're like, this situation is just so crazy. It's this villain's back for the fourth time. They're referencing the fact that it's the fourth time the villain's back, and it gets very, very amusing very quickly as well. And just in general, the way Hellboy resolves a lot of the scenarios that he encounters, a lot of the problems that he has to face, it's very funny to see how he resolves them. But I can't recommend these volumes enough. I can't wait to keep rereading it. I think I'll do one more part of these where I talk about 5, 6, and Hellboy in Hell. Let me know what you guys think of Hellboy. If you're interested in the title, you can pick up various forms of it on organicpricebooks.com. I recommend the library editions if you can get them. And yeah, as always, thank you all very much for tuning in. This was Mike from the Hardcover Comic. Let us know down in the comments below what you think of Hellboy, and until next time, you stay classy, Internet.